I worked for Moulds and MacMinn, M-O-U-L-D-S, Moulds and MacMinn. Tommy and Bill, they both spent a lot of lunches at the United Service Club, and I became their driver. And I'd get the phone call, "Young Bob, bring the Plymouth round, we're up the club." So off I'd go in the Plymouth, or I'd take the Ford V8, or then Tommy bought his wife a little Mini, and I used to run the kids, not a Mini, a Morris Minor, with the headlights in, not out, so very early.
Low light.
Yes, low light. And I used to take the MacMinn children about in that quite often. And they were good blokes to work for. They were still of almost the old-fashioned era of when there was a good fire, you hopped in the Ford V8 and raced behind the fire wagons. But
with cards.
With cards. But they were good bosses, and I got the princely sum of £3 a week. I distinctly remember that. £3 a week for that. And we worked in a building at South Brisbane, 99 Stanley Street, which is long gone, which was reputed to have been a brothel for the African American soldiers during the war, who were not allowed, of course, to cross the Victoria Bridge. They were not allowed into the main part of the city. And so that there was a big central section. It was a timber frame building, big central section, and it had rooms all down the side. One side was Moulds and MacMinn, and the other side was R.J. McWilliam and Partners, or R.J. McWilliam only in those days. And R.J. was there, racing about like a madman, and John Day and Dave Stewart, who went on to work, particularly John Day, with Robin Gibson on engineering projects and things like that. So that was the early days of R.J. McWilliam, and with Moulds and MacMinn.
So how long did you stay there?
I must have stayed there a couple of years, I think. And then I went to work for Theo Thine and Associates.
And beyond driving the car, did you work on some projects at Moulds and MacMinn as well?
I did. I can't really remember what I worked on, Janina. I've got I have a fairly undistinguished career in many respects, in that I've only ever worked in very small buildings, which is what I chose to do in the end anyway. But I really can't remember what we did at Moulds and MacMinn. I suppose my biggest memory is that I was a very useful gopher. And of course you didn't know much straight out of school and into the office.
But was there somebody there to teach you?
Oh yes, so the blokes in the office, Bruce Nowland, who else, Nev Miller and Peter Cheney, and they'd sit there and say, "Now listen here, young Bob, you know, this is how you do your lettering, and it's not called printing, it's called lettering, and you know, this is how you cut a piece of paper, and this is how you draft," and so on. So that those guys were a great help and a great source of fun, really. It was a very enjoyable experience, really. And yeah, and we had a very voluptuous secretary, whom we all used to joke about how Tommy kept calling her in, and you know, it's in those days of where there was
take a letter,
where you know, take a letter, Celine, take a letter. You know, and it was in those days of way before any feeling that was wrong, you know, to be ogling your secretary and all this sort of thing. So I shouldn't say that in front of you, Janina, because social mores have changed hugely. But so I'm afraid my reminiscence of that period is one more of life experience than architectural wonderment. You know, it's the sort of thing that happens.